What's up, players? Today we're going to take a look at the QRD Vortex F5. It's kind of interesting. I just saw this device on Alibaba labeled the H55. They had it in black and they had it in like a white beige. And I asked the seller about it to see if I can get one for a review. And they didn't want anything to do with me. They just wanted to sell bulk. So I just kind of let it go and decided I'm not going to bother with this device. And then the next day, QRD reached out to me asking me if I'd like to review this unit from AliExpress. So I was like, hell yeah, I do. Look, it has Hall effect joysticks, basically the same specs as a PowKiddy X55. It even says it has analog triggers, and I just can't see how that is. But if you look right here, first we'll get into the specs. RK3566 quad core, 64-bit Cortex A55, main frequency up to 1.8 gigahertz, 5.5-inch IPS display. And it has that ROM eMMC 8 gigabytes, so there's something about that internal storage that makes me think it's going to be weaker than the X55. Has 5,000 milliamp hour battery, and there it is, Hall effect joysticks, and it says Hall effect analog triggers. So we'll have to see. HDMI out, RGB, long battery life. Here's some more pictures down here, and yeah, there's another little specification thing here that you can take a look at. So yeah, we're just gonna pull this thing out, take a look at it, play a few games, and see how it runs. All right, my friends, let's get into it. As we usually do on this channel, we're going to start from scratch. We still have the package in its mailer. It's a pretty big box right here. I have my PowKiddy X55 right here, and as you can see, it's very similar in size. We'll put them side by side a little bit later in the video. For now, let's just open this up and get a good first impression on this device. All right, it's still sealed too. Wow, this is the first time I think I've ever received a retro handheld that's plastic sealed like this. Like, this is legit unboxing right here. All right, I like to keep the cellophane on, or whatever you call this plastic wrap, when I can. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna try to carefully cut along the line right here. All right, so before we open it up, one more quick look at the top of the box. QRD Vortex F5 retro handheld game console, Hall effect joysticks, RGB lighting, 5.5-inch HD IPS display, TF extend. That's pretty much it for the box, except for some legal info. All right, let's open this thing up. It is a big device. Look at that. I'm going to set this aside for a second and see what else we have in here. We have our standard USB-C to USB-A cable. I'm just going to leave that in there for now. We have, let's see, a good size manual here, and another, like a quick start card, it looks like here. It says must read before use. So I am going to pause it and read this for a second. Feel free to read that yourself. I'm curious what the firmware on this device is going to be. I have no clue. So let's take a look. All right, first impression. We have this screen protector thing on. I'm going to leave that on for now. It didn't come with the screen protector, unfortunately. And this one's kind of smudgy, but maybe I'll take it off in a minute. But let's just take a look at this device. So yeah, pretty similar to the X55. I'll pull it out in a second, but in the hands, it feels pretty good. The plastic feels decent. It doesn't feel terrible. It doesn't feel super premium, but it feels nice. That's a big battery, 5,000 milliamp hour battery right there. It says game player, thumbsticks, Hall rocker. They feel like those Aeolion thumbsticks, those Aeolion Hall sensor sticks. They actually feel pretty good. So face buttons, they look nice. And D-pad, that's where we're going to start right here with this D-pad. It looks a little bit shallow. All right, cross our fingers. Okay, like I said, it is a little bit shallow, but it does have a central pivot. It kind of goes flush on the edges, if you can see right there, but that might not be a big deal. We'll have to see. I think it should be okay. Doesn't feel too bad. It actually feels pretty nice. The feedback is nice, silicone membrane. It's not too hard to press like that last one we reviewed. So far so good. Base buttons. Oh yeah, that's nice. Can you hear that? Why isn't it focusing? That's what it should sound like. That's a nice silicone membrane right there. They feel great. How far do they sit up off the shell? They're rounded, so the edge of them goes flush, but the rounded part still sits up a little bit above the shell. They're good for me. Yeah, they feel great. Start and select, clicky, and then this is our back. It kind of looks like an Android style button. It has a home and a back symbol on it, and then that's reset right there. I'm glad that's indented because yeah, I don't want to accidentally press that. On the top we have an HDMI out, we have our power button, some ventilation I believe, volume up and volume down. They have it backwards on this one. On the bottom we have 2 TF card slots. That's a good sign, but I don't know if this one's going to be used or not. This could just be a single TF card console. We'll have to see. We have USB-C host and charging and a 3.5mm headphone jack. I guess these are speakers right here. Okay. And time to test the triggers. Okay, they said these are analog triggers. That is not an analog trigger. That is not a Hall sensor trigger. Come on. Why would you put that in the details? Come on, QRD. I still like you guys, but you guys got to take that out of the details right there. That's a digital trigger. That's an instant click. It actually feels good, and I don't mind it, but I was surprised to see that they said it was analog triggers. So, unfortunately, it's not. And the bumpers use a different micro switch. As you can hear, these ones are a little bit more mouse clicky, and these ones are a little bit more mechanical switchy, more funky and more clicky. So yeah, that's that. The device looks pretty good. Let me slide this up right here and pull out the X55 and just take a look at it right next to it. So here they are. We have the PowKiddy X55 and the QRD Vortex F5. It's a little bit bigger, has more grip on the back too. It's actually more comfortable in the hands than the X55. The X55 leaves your bottom fingers kind of hanging, whereas this, yeah, your pinkies are just off a little bit, but most of your hand has something to grip onto, so that's kind of nice. Feels good in the hands. Thumbsticks, if you're playing dual shooter games or anything like that, it's still not that bad because you got a little bit of grip there. You do have to kind of adjust your grip here for that, but that's just kind of how it is. The thumbstick doesn't really get in the way with the buttons. Your thumb just kind of hovers over them. So far so good. I really hope this D-pad works out well. All right, I'm going to move this off to the side now, and we're going to start this thing up. Okay, so I already started this thing up. I already peeled the screen protector off, and there's a little bit of issues with it. So I'm going to start it back up and kind of show you right now. I think it's kind of an awesome device hardware-wise, but I think the software is going to need some work. Right now there's some issues with RetroArch where I can't seem to save the configuration files. The aspect ratios are all 16:9. You could adjust them to the proper aspect ratio, but once you save your configuration file and go back in, it's stretched out again. There's just some weird issues with it, so we're going to have to kind of figure that stuff out. This is the front end right here. It's actually a nice looking front end. I'm going to press start really quick so you can see what we have here. EmuELEC. You can read down at the bottom. I can't really read that. It's such a small print, but it's some version of EmuELEC here. And let's go into the system settings and see brightness. We're at 100% brightness right now. So I'm going to bring that down to 0 just so you can see. It gets really dim. It doesn't look as dim on the camera as it does to my naked eye because this has like a low light setting, but it does get really dim. It actually doesn't get as bright as I wish it got though. So there's that right there. There's some other things you can mess with like hue, saturation, and contrast, but I'm leaving that stuff alone. All the other settings are pretty much here. You can adjust the LEDs right here. So you could have them white on, white breathe, orange breathe, or off. So you can just turn them off if you want them off for those of you that just can't stand LEDs. So now they're off. I'm just going to keep them off. And actually, you know what? Let me turn them back on just because I don't mind them. And let's put them on orange breathe. Okay. And yeah, just a bunch of things here. Scraper in here, updates. So I guess if you hook this up to a Wi-Fi adapt or a dongle or an Ethernet adapter, you can probably scrape your games and stuff like that. But everything's scraped on here. The issue is that PSP and RetroArch and stuff are not optimized properly. So every single time you go into something and you go back out, the things you've changed, you're going to have to readjust again. There's no Mario games in here. And even Nintendo DS, unfortunately, you can't get a full screen game. You can only get side by side or top and bottom. So these are things that we got to kind of figure out. I'm not sure what needs to be done. This should have been done before the thing is sold, but it was sent to me for free for purpose of review. So I hope they iron these things out before people start buying them, because I know they're already for sale. But yeah, there's some issues that we got to deal with. So just going to Diddy Kong Racing right here, just to show you what Nintendo DS is like. If you press the right thumbstick, it's going to take you into the Drastic menu, as you see. Normally that would have been the left thumbstick, and the right thumbstick would give you an option to choose between single screen or dual screen, because the triggers aren't doing it. They only switch side by side, top and bottom. So I'm going to return to game, and you'll see right here. So you got that. That's our only option. So you press the left stick, nothing happens. The right stick takes us into the menu. So, you know, Nintendo DS is going to be able to play perfectly fine on here for the most part. I'm going to exit Drastic. We're not even going to play any DS games on here. I'm just going to kind of give you a rundown of what's going on here. You know, all these lightweight games are going to play. They're not properly scaled. They're going to be 16:9, so you have to adjust them on your own. PSP obviously is properly scaled, but there's it seems like it's not running as well as I've seen other RK3566 chips. So I'll skip the intro for you for God of War here. And we're just going to have this on 1X PSP, not 2X, even though it probably should be able to run on 2X. And I'm just going to give you a good, quick first impression of what the game runs like in that first segment right there. You'll see it's a little bit choppy. So I don't know what's going on with this thing. If there's something, if it's not actually the specs that it says it is or what, but you guys let me know what you think, okay? First, we'll go into the PSP menu, and with this, it's just like that last console, the RX6H. You press Select and B to get into the PSP menu. Go into here, and you can get into your settings, and you can see we're using OpenGL, and frame skipping is set at 1, and auto frame skip is on, and it's at 1X PSP. I'm not going to waste the time digging through this. There it is, 1X PSP. So we're just going to go in and start a game, and let you see how it runs. Okay, so here we go. So as you can see, it's not as, it doesn't look as nice and crisp as it would if it was on 2X PSP. But on 2X PSP, it's going to run a lot more choppy than it does here. It runs pretty fine here, but it's still a little bit slow. I can, you know what, let me put on, see if I could put on the frames per second and let you guys get an idea of what's going on here. So we don't even have upscale on, none of that's going on. Frame per second counter, we're going to turn that on. We're going to put on FPS. We're going to go back, and we're just going to continue. So there at the top right there. So look at that. It's at 20 frames per second right now. Yeah. I think this is a cool console. I just think it needs some work. Maybe there's something that can be done to improve it. It's just unfortunate these things aren't done ahead of time, you know, before we get them. I don't want to say anything bad about QRD because they're really nice people and they're cool, but this is the PowKiddy X55 was a much better first experience. Just everything was optimized on it already, and everything worked really well. God of War looked good. We were playing at 2X PSP, so yeah, these are just some things to take into consideration. After this, I'm gonna test the Dpad on Street Fighter, and then just Contra, just those basic tests for today, because I think this thing needs some work. And maybe we'll go back and do another video when the firmware is better optimized. So as you guys can see, look at that. It's 15, 14 frames per second. This is just, you know, I'm thinking this is pretty much unplayable to most people. Even though like you can actually play it and have a decent time, it's just this is not a good experience if you're trying to play PSP. So I'm not sure what we need to do to make this run better. Obviously, I could put it on frame skip 2 and it'll run better, but then it's going to even be choppier. So I'm going to exit out of here right now. And that's what it is for PSP. There's some issues we need to figure out how to fix. Same thing for RetroArch. Let's go into Street Fighter 2 right now, and I'll show you we'll test the D-pad, and I'll show you how the aspect ratio just always stays at 16:9 once you back out and you go back in, even if you've saved your configuration file after changing it. So it's a little bit of a frustrating situation. Hopefully everything can be fixed in the future, because it'd be a shame for this hardware to just be rendered useless due to bad software. All right, so 2 tests here. We're going to test this D-pad, and I'm just going to show you how RetroArch is working in here. Things aren't right. You see it's 16:9 right now. I've already saved it at 4:3, and when I go back in, it's back to 16:9. So I'm going to press select and X. I'm going to press back. We're going to go into here to settings, video, scaling, down to aspect ratio. It's back to 16:9. Put it to 4:3. I could go into here. I had to go into the user settings to get configuration file to even show up here, but now it's here. Save new configuration, and let's go back in, quick menu, resume, and now the aspect ratio is correct, and I should be able to back out of this and start it back up, and it stays like this, but it doesn't, unfortunately. So that's just something that we have to be aware of about the software on this thing right now. It's not optimized properly. That's kind of unfortunate. It feels good in the hands. It actually feels better than the X55 in the hands. I'm pretty sure we're going to be able to get those fireballs, the dragon punches. That's not a problem. The only problem I have on this thing so far is the way that the emulators are set up. You see? D-pad's working well. No problem there. So, as you can see, I've already saved the configuration file. Now I'm going to quit RetroArch. Just like that. Let's start it back up. We're going to be widescreen again. There we are. All right, so these are things we need to figure out. So now we know that. I'm not going to test a bunch of games on here, but we are going to go into Contra and just test the D-pad to see how the D-pad works for like false inputs and stuff. And again, this is going to be scaled at 16:9. So it doesn't really matter if I fix it, I guess, at this point, because we're just testing the D-pad for this one right here. Up, up, down, down, left, right, B, A, start. I think cardinal directions work perfectly fine. The D-pad works well. There's 30, yep. All right, so let's check this out right here. Shout out to Russ. This is a good D-pad. You know, he's barely moving, but he's moving enough. He's not running, he's not stuck. He's right where he should be. You could shoot your diagonals. Yeah, it works well for Street Fighter. It works well for Contra. It's just unfortunate. We just need to figure out how to get all the software working right. And the thing is, there's a lot of people that are gonna, you know, buy this and not be able to get that stuff fixed or not. No, hopefully they end up fixing it before releasing too many of these. But I think a lot of these companies don't really understand that we want proper aspect ratio. Alright, I don't need to play a whole game of Contra here. But you guys get the idea. The D-pad works well for Street Fighter. It works well for Contra. The thumbsticks are Hall sensor sticks. It's kind of strange that the triggers were labeled as analog Hall sensor triggers, but they're not. Makes me question whether or not the sticks are Hall sensor, but it did say it on the box as well. So I do believe that they are, but this thing needs some work. I don't know why I'm still playing this level. Should I finish out the level? Should just use turbo. Forgot the top 2 buttons are set as turbo. Okay, so that's Contra. Let's get out of here. And yeah, I don't know if we should really test a whole bunch of other games on here. Let's just go into Sega Dreamcast and test something in there, see how something runs like Crazy Taxi. And we're going to keep this video kind of short, relatively speaking. So look, we're widescreen again. So I'm going to go in here. I'm going to adjust that. That's annoying. I'm not going to bother with the configuration file because I know it doesn't work anyway. Screen looks good. I mean, it has good viewing angles. This thing has potential. Will it ever reach its potential? I don't know. I know people in the community get kind of annoyed that these companies release devices and then kind of depend on the people that are buying the devices to actually fix them, and that's just not right. So, you know, I understand that. So it sounds a little choppy. Alright, so this is supposed to be an RK3566 chip here, and you know, we've played Crazy Taxi on RK3326 chips, and it's ran relatively well. So, you know, I was running into a curb right there, but listen to the sound. I mean, the music is just so choppy. So yeah, it's just it's a little bit disappointing. I mean, the last few consoles I tested Crazy Taxi on ran better than this did. So this thing at its price, it's like 80-90 bucks almost right now, and it's definitely not worth that price in the state it's in right now. So I think I'm gonna back out of here right now and just kind of leave it at that for this video. It's a beautiful device, it's a comfortable device, it has a great battery, it has a great screen, and maybe it will be great in the future, but we need to get the software working properly on this thing. Until then, I don't know what else to say, but thank you for watching, my friends. Don't not like this video because you don't like this device, or like this video because you love this device. Like this video because you like me. If you don't like me, don't like this video. I like you guys though. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you guys again on the next one. It'll be probably in a day or two. Peace.